Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday evening and it's just after 7 o'clock. And so it's time for Keto Confab. I'm your host, Elizabeth Hanson, along with my husband, Scott, who will be on the video shortly. And we are here to help support people who are trying to live the keto lifestyle, and specifically that lifestyle according to the teachings of Dr. Annette Bosworth. And so this is our weekly meeting, and you're welcome to join anytime or watch it on the replay. And this week was a pretty good week for me. And just today, this afternoon, I actually watched a video that I found interesting. I follow, COVID virus and numbers of infections and everything a lot because of my work. And there was a video I decided to watch that was talking about COVID disease and COVID severe illness and COVID deaths as it relates to cardiometabolic health. And cardiometabolic health is basically how healthy is your heart and your whole cardiovascular system, how healthy is your metabolism, and things like your cholesterol, your blood sugar, your blood pressure. And it also includes your brain function. How well does your brain function? And it was a study of the relationship between severe COVID and COVID deaths and how healthy your cardiometabolic health is. And it also, the guy, it's a 20-minute video, and I'll link it with this on this video. He goes through several studies, and one of the studies he goes through is trends and disparities in cardiometabolic health among US adults from 1999 to 2018. So this is pre-pandemic. And the bottom line is that 93.8% of US adults have very poor cardiometabolic health. And this sets them up for heart disease, stroke, dementia, Alzheimer's, cerebral vascular diseases of all kinds, hypertension and everything, because basically the bottom line of the study is fat, how much weight we've gained and how fat we are. The average waistline in the United States in the last 20 years has increased by 3 inches. And you think, oh, my waistline increasing by 3 inches over 20 years, whoopee-doo-dah. But that's the average US waistline. And we're just getting more and more unhealthy as we get older. I mean, as the country goes on, as a country, we are less healthy and we have larger waistlines. And this particular study went on to talk about cholesterol. And the bottom line of the cholesterol was that the total cholesterol was not really the number you have to look at to consider cardiometabolic health. It's the triglycerides, the HDL, which is your healthy, and your LDL, which is your bad, really aren't very good indicators as to whether your heart is good or bad. It's the triglycerides that needs to be looked at more. The triglycerides are a better indicator than your total cholesterol or the breakdown of the LDL or HDL. And The study also talked about trying to use medications like metformin to drop your blood sugar and statins to drop the cholesterol, and also medications for hypertension, that they are not nearly as good or helpful for people, and they come with other complications to the cardiometabolic system, that it's better to fight all of this by diet and exercise. And I'm like, wow. For me, the takeaways for me are, I've lowered my cholesterol already. My triglycerides were never a problem. My HDL has always been good. My LDL a little lacking. No, the HDL has been good, and the LDL not horrible. But anyway, for my doctor to be more concerned about the total cholesterol than the triglycerides, my triglycerides have been fine, but she just is spazzed over this total cholesterol number, which I don't think is realistic. Anyway, so it's a really interesting 20-minute video, and I'll link it to this video so you guys can go check it out. And the various studies that he cites in the video are also very interesting, and I'm going to find them. I didn't have time this afternoon because I just watched this, I don't know, on my way to my hair appointment this afternoon. And so I haven't had time to try and get the studies myself. But I basically, when I'm sitting there listening to him, I'm thinking it's exactly what Dr. Boz has said, is that we have to get our diet under control and fix our metabolisms with food, not with some pill, because pills come with problems and everything. And so I'm like, for me, this study speaks to me because I'm trying to fix my own cardiometabolic health, and I've made good strides in it, but more of America needs to work on this overall. And it also confirms to me that by working on keto for the year before I got COVID, really probably did save me, because I was really, really unhealthy before I started COVID, and got much more healthy with COVID and losing weight. And that helped me with COVID, because he goes into that, they called it mapping COVID deaths and severe illness related to unhealthy lifestyle behaviors throughout the United States. And he was basically saying that if people would just get healthy, if they would just eat healthy and lose weight, when they got COVID, it would be, just the annual run-of-the-mill cold. But because we're so unhealthy, we've had all of these deaths and stuff. So it's a really actually fascinating study. And if you guys have the time and the interest, I suggest you look it up this week after I post it, because it's really quite fascinating. And I'm going to find the studies and be able to read the whole things for myself, but it's really fascinating. So any comments on that?
I'm sorry, I can't comment because I came in. I don't even know the name of the study you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, the name of the study is Trends and Disparities in Cardiometabolic Health Among U.S. Adults from 1999 to 2018. So that was pre-pandemic. And then there's another study that he mentions, Mapping COVID Deaths and Severe Illness and the Unhealthy Lifestyle Behaviors that Contribute to it. So it's two different studies, and I just find them really fascinating.
Well, it's sort of like a political powder keg, even in my family,
Yeah.
Here's the thing. throughout the entire time, I was not one day worried that I would be taken down by COVID.
Mhm.
I knew that my mitochondria and my overall health had improved so well that I had peace of mind
Mhm.
about my health. And I know that I thank God I've never had respiratory problems. And I knew I was breathing fine, and I was in the water, I was fine. So the thing of it is, it breaks my heart with family members and neighbors and people when they express such sorrow and fear about it. I believe what they're saying is true, that they really are afraid, and it breaks my heart that they have been tormented like this. And gosh, I really don't want to get too deep into it, because people have lost family members, and there's been repercussions. People have lost jobs, and there's been very severe repercussions for some people. And my own daughter is, she's a branch manager of a library, and they had to take very extreme measures. The books were picked up at the curb. Nobody could come into the building, and all the books had to be requested 3 days ahead of time, and then they had to have staff that just went and picked the books off the shelf for the people and put them in stacks and had them out at the curb ready for pickup. And then they had to email all the people that, okay, these books will be available as of this. I mean, it turned into a massive work, and not all the library branches were open. So she was doing, her team was doing the work of 3 libraries. And so, and then still people had to get laid off, and
Mhm.
so I don't talk about the whole subject with my daughter, because she has a million stories to tell, if you get her going. And so I just concentrate on happy, happy, happy. I'm so glad to see you. And that's just basically the way I have dealt with the problem over the last 2.5 years. And I'm not hopeful that we're 100% out of it either. We listen to German news every night, and they're talking about maybe bringing back the masks for the fall. And
Yeah, San Francisco School District announced yesterday that they were going to start using masks again at schools right now, even during summer school, because the numbers are up in San Francisco. And if you don't want your child masks, then your child will be regulated to online school. I agree with you, Patricia. I think that we need to do the best on our own to take care of ourselves and guard our own health, but not be fearful. And I wasn't really fearful of COVID. I had clients who, wanted to come in and see me, and I'm like, okay. And I asked them, what do you want? I'll wear a mask if you really have to have it. I'm not afraid of you. But if you're afraid of me, I'll wear a mask for you, not for me, because I don't believe the masks actually assist that much. And I wasn't afraid about COVID because I knew that I had skills to use in case I became ill. But I did tell Scott and the rest of the family, if anyone gets very sick, it's probably going to be me, because I have chronic problems with my lungs. I always have. And you know, it's probably going to be me because I'm the overweight one. And I was in the process of losing weight during that time, but I agree with you. I don't discuss COVID and COVID policies with my sister because she worked at a YMCA and they basically had to close. And I mean, she's an aquatics instructor. They couldn't have anyone in the pool. And she works with a lot of seniors. She was in charge of the senior activities. And it's so good to keep those people 70, 80, 90 years old active. And they would go to garden shows and they would go to plays and they would go to this and that. They went to the Billy Graham Museum one time, and they would go all sorts of places, and the people would keep active. And she taught 3 classes a week of seniors in the water, all ages, from 60. I think her oldest person was a gentleman who was 96. And all of those people lost their activities. Every single activity that they did at the Y, they lost it. And, some of them didn't make it through the pandemic and others did. But it's really sad for them. For me, because I work in healthcare, I have to be aware of what's going on and everything. But very, very early on, I knew from what they were saying that people with diabetes and hypertension and who were obese and everything were more at risk. And I'm like, well, this is probably a dietary exercise kind of disease, of course, because if we start out with very unhealthy bodies and we get some sort of virus or something, we're definitely going to have trouble fighting it off, So no duh, it doesn't take a big university study to tell me that. So I do like this study pointing out that if we can work on our cardio-metabolic health and get ourselves more healthy through diet and exercise, and I'm not talking about people doing a marathon, just actually moving, because so many of us Americans are pretty sedentary. I think it's very interesting that, I find it suspect that our government, and I'm not blaming any party or anything, never mentioned trying to get healthy or eat healthier as one of the preventatives. That frustrated me from very early on, and even when months had gone by and they had studies showing that, increasing your vitamin C and your zinc and your vitamin D really helped. They never mentioned it. The CDC and the FDA and the NIH or NHI or NIH, I think it is, National Institute of Health. Yes. None of them. Yeah, none of them mentioned it. And I'm like, that's just ridiculous. They're supposed to have been helping us see what this disease really was and how to help ourselves. But that's okay. It's political. So we don't need to be political. So yeah, big pharma runs it. That's for sure. Oh, the other thing is today I read an article today about antidepressants and how the serotonin theory of antidepressants has now been debunked. It isn't so. They've done some big studies, but since the 90s, they started talking about it in the 60s, that, people were depressed and anxious because of their brain chemicals weren't right. But they've now done big studies that it is not serotonin receptor, serotonin transporter, anything to do with the serotonin protein that is causing depression. It's actually coming from the gut and our gut flora and how it's affecting the brain. So in other words, how we're eating. And I'm like, Yeah, I mean, Dr. Boz talks about this in her brain class. Everything we eat affects the brain. You want a better brain? Stop eating the crap. And what do we eat? We eat the crap. And so very interesting study, article that I read this afternoon while I was waiting for my daughter's hair to be cut. Um, um, but I'll link that, the article to that too. Anyway, so Renee, yes, Patricia?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and talk about Renee. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Renee can't be here because she has a massive sinus headache that's turning into a migraine. And she says, pray for me because it's bad. I'm hoping that this is not signs of the new variant of COVID, because the new one, the BA.5, typically starts with a big headache and a sore throat and then some sinus issues, and you just feel like crap. So I'm hoping it isn't that. I just hope she has a sinus infection and we'll get over it pretty quick. But anyway, she said to say hi to everybody and she's sorry to miss you. And she's going to be hopefully back next week. So what did you want to say, Patricia?
I wanted to report a little bit about my brains class.
Yes. Okay.
This week they were talking about the BDNF, which is
yes,
brain-derived neuro something.
In Scott, do you remember BDNF?
But anyway, Dr. Boz made this course in 2019, and of course, there's been even more new science since then. And I've even actually, I'm pretty sure Dr. Boz says another way besides fasting to trigger this wonderful hormone in your brain, which is spurs stem cells and really invigorates you. Another way besides fasting is sauna. And that's, I have always known how nice it is to come out of a sauna. I always feel very relaxed and everything. But I wanted to tell you that, I'm trying to learn piano and I'm learning different things in my course. I'm taking an online course, and also I go to YouTube to try to get a lot of free lessons. Oh my gosh, there's hundreds of people trying to teach you how to play the piano some of them don't speak English very well. But anyway, I ran into this guy, and he's actually a guitar player, but he was talking about neuroplasticity. And I said, well, that's an interesting feature for playing guitar, neuroplastic. So he talked about how excited he was because he just listened to this Andrew Huberman, who is a scientist, professor, doctor in California. And he has a really big YouTube presence. And Huberman has done a lot of research regarding BDNF and also psychedelic drugs and all kinds of other things that he talks about. But according to this guitar guy, Huberman said in one of his, I'll have to try to track it down. He said in one of his videos that if you do 5 minutes of running in place, 5 minutes of running in place before you sit down with your guitar or your piano, you can actually accomplish a lot more learning in a very short period of time. So, of course, I do my water walking, and man, I was thinking, man, this might be something. And so I went to the brains course, And sure enough, I listened very carefully to what Dr. Boz said in 2019. And one of the great benefits of BDNF is enhanced learning. So now I'm on the track of trying to get enhanced. You see, because now I'm trying to learn all the chords, the left-handed chords and the triads. I don't know if any of you know piano, but triads and stuff like that, and inversions. And it's a little bit of memorizing going on, and it's hand memorization too. And I think it's helping. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the brains and also about BDNF and in general. Does anyone else have anything about BDNF?
Scott,
I'm reading
did
on
you?
it on Wikipedia, but I don't know too much about it. I don't know anything about it.
Did you look it up? What it stands for, honey?
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Neurotrophic factor. Yeah.
You know, I wonder if running in place would help. I wonder if jumping rope would be even more helpful.
Okay, now I already told you I ain't jumping no ropes.
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, people in general.
But what I do in that place is I put both hands on one end of the counter and I say to myself, okay, Patricia, this is a jump. And I push myself up with the hands and I lift both feet at the same time. And I do that 10 times. And I say, there you go. I jumped 10 times. And that's just as good as a jump rope, I think.
Well, the thing is, when you jump rope, though, you're moving the hands in coordination with the because it's not a. What I'm assuming is it's not a just a physical jump, because if that were true, then you could do push-ups or sit-ups or whatever. I think probably what the jumping rope is that you're coordinating hand and arm movement with the legs. But the thing is, if it's true, if it's just a coordination of arms with legs, then I would think jumping jacks or dancing or some sort of Pilates move or something would maybe be just the thing, or like a rowing machine, because on a rowing machine, you're moving the legs in coordination with the arms, Just a thought. I don't know.
And my water walking, doing simulated cross country skiing. I think that's the same.
Oh, yeah, right. Because that's definitely coordinating, arms and legs as well. Yeah.
Thanks for the link, Tammy. I'm gonna put that on the video as well so people can get that. I don't doubt that doing something physical before you sit down to do something mental, memory, remember, and everything is good. I'm gonna look up this Andrew Huberman and have some views of his videos, because that sounds interesting.
But the other thing is, okay, if you do some sort of physical exercise right before you start learning something, well, the thing is, any physical exercise is going to increase blood flow, and so if you get the blood flowing around the body and flowing up to the brain and stuff, then you're going to probably get a better flow of oxygen to the brain, and probably if you're going to get a better flow of oxygen to the brain, then that would help with learning. I don't know if it's just oxygen flow by itself. What would be kind of interesting, and maybe they've tried this as well, is put a person in a hyperbaric chamber and have them try to learn something, because hyperbaric chamber is increasing the amount of oxygen to the brain, but you're doing that without exercise, though. You're just straight increasing oxygen in the blood, and I wonder if that would have the same effect on learning as some sort of exercise.
Actually, they've already done studies on that, Scott. They've done studies with children with ADD, ADHD, and autism, and it does help with learning skills. Um, Putting them in an oxygen tank and
Yeah.
pumping the oxygen, and then they give them a new task to learn. They seem to be able to hold on to the memory better. And they've done some study with lymph movement as well. And so bouncing on like one of those mini tramps for 5 minutes helps the lymph move. And it all makes sense because within the brain actually has a lymphatic system. It's called the glymphatic with a G, glymphatic system. And getting the glymphatic system moving so that it moves debris out and it's not clogged helps the brain function better. The other thing the brain has is it also has a microbiome. They've now found that the brain has a microbiome, and we need a good brain microbiome to function well. And so this whole thing about blood-brain barrier, yes, there is a barrier, but certain bacteria and virus and everything get over that and into the brain, and having a healthy brain bacteria environment helps us, work better and everything. So I don't think it's anything inherent in running, in place for 5 minutes. I think if you jumped rope for 5 minutes, if you ran for 5 minutes, if you went swimming, if you did your water walking, I think it helps wake up the brain and get the whole lymphatic system and electrical system working better. Because our brains are an electrical system to a certain extent, and but they are also a protein system. And all of these things like dopamine and serotonin and everything, these are all proteins. But they've got to be able to move. They can't be in a thick gel. They need to be in a viscous fluid. And yeah, and we learned about BDNF when we took the brains class as well. And I can't remember much about it, to be honest. But I still have all my papers and everything, and I'll look it up again, and I can go back and watch that. But I knew it was important. I knew it was important to brain function. Oh, that reminds me. Near the end of the brains class, Dr. Boz talks about marijuana and how marijuana affects the brain. Well, another article I read this week was that some doctors are now saying it's okay for breastfeeding mothers to smoke marijuana, recreationally. And yes, it gets into the breast milk, but they don't think it has much, if any, deleterious effects on babies. And my mind nearly exploded. I'm like, are you people insane? Yeah, Melody, I want to know who these idiots are, because from Dr. Boz's brain class, I learned that marijuana causes swelling and inflammation in the brain. And it takes a long time for that swelling and inflammation to go away. And it takes brain cells with it when it does. And marijuana, it seems one of the safer drugs, but it really isn't. Just like we think, we think in our society that alcohol is safe, but you've learned in the brains class that alcohol swells the brain. And it can take, if you're a chronic alcohol drinker, it can take months for your brain to stop the swelling and shrink and heal from that. And
we haven't gotten to the alcohol part.
Oh,
But
okay.
the leader, she said that she was, and the leader, by the way, is in sobriety herself for 25 years. So
Mm.
she knows a little bit about alcohol.
Mhm.
And she said that she was surprised that when they went to Pella, Iowa recently, when Dr. Boz did the course live again,
Mhm.
basically she used the same videos, but her talks in between were live.
Yeah.
But Dr. Boz said that even having one glass of wine could throw off your system for up to 6 months.
Yeah. I believe it. But see, the thing we look at is, all right, are these people basically able to maintain a regular life? You know, okay, so they drink 6 beers a night. Whoopee doopie, that's on them. They're adults. But are they able to maintain a regular life? And by that, I mean, do they get up in the morning and feel like crap and go to work and are cranky at work, and maybe they get enough done, maybe they don't get enough done. I the damage alcohol does to our brains. I am so thankful that I've never been a drinker. And I just cringed at
What we haven't, as I say, we haven't gotten to that point, but when you realize, when you hear some of these statistics, that like large percentages of the people walking around us have some of this damage, have been taking, what they call SSRIs or something,
yeah.
Prozac and all those things. Large percentages. Thank God I never had that, but you make, like, one time I was at a red light, and a car full of people from another country were driving by, and the window was open, and it was very obvious that they were all smoking in there, smoking pot. And I'm saying, gosh, even as the driver, the residuals, smoke in the air would probably be ruining him. I mean, just to realize that people that you're meeting on the street, or or in the store, half of them are strung out on something, or were strung out on something yesterday, or it's scary.
And I mean, it is scary. And Melody has written that these are the generations that will be running and building our country and everything, and that's scary too. And I have 2 nephews that love marijuana and use it on the regular, and they live in states that have made it legal for recreational use. And no matter what Auntie Becky says, it doesn't affect me. I'm fine. And I'm like, oh, no, you're not. And but there's no talking to them, and it's just sad. It's just sad. And how many of the accidents that happen on a daily basis, how many medical accidents happen, like a doctor or a nurse gives the wrong medication, or they give it in the wrong amount. How much of that is affected by the amount of alcohol they've had in the last month? Let's say just the last month, or that weekend marijuana they have, and it's a Friday.
I can
it's just scary.
remember in 1972
Mhm.
sitting in a literature class in college, and it was obvious that the professor had been doing dope, and he was sitting Indian style on the desk, and just sort of, well, if Charles Dickens really meant this, I don't know if he really meant it or not, but And I'm saying to me, I'm paying for you and you're goofing around. I paid
Yeah.
for my own college. It just irritates me that, I mean, it's scary, you know, but you have to understand probably 40% of the people we meet every day have one of these problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And of course, we can only take care of ourselves, and people we love very much are against what we're talking about right now. They're like, let me have my beer, let me have my wine. And you know, alcohol is legal. What do you want to do? You want to go back to prohibition times? And I'm like, well, if you asked me, yeah, but you know, but I'm not in charge, and I can only take care of me, and I can nag Scott until he gives up all his beer. Scott doesn't drink. Never has, never will. And oh, well, we've had sake when we lived in Japan for near New Year's. We had some sake, but it was a taste, not we weren't drinking buddies with people. But boy, can they knock back the sake, let me tell you. Whew, whew. And during the New Year's, I don't know, there are some people that drink more during the New Year's celebration than they eat. And everything. But yeah, it's pretty sad. The whole thing's pretty sad. So from a sad story, let's go to a success story. Last week, Melody accidentally missed our meeting. She just forgot about it. But she sent me a message and she said I can read it because her voice is kind of funny this week. She says, I wanted to brag a little bit. I had to buy a few clothes since mine are now falling off me and I look extremely frumpy in them. She says she has lost 40 pounds since she started keto, only another 40 to go. Now, remind us, Melody, when did you get on the keto bandwagon? I can never remember. Well, she replies, she says, then she also did her Lifeline screening like I did, and she did blood work with that. She started in December. So this is July, so 7 months. Took her 7 months to lose 40 pounds. That's okay. Got to lose it healthfully. You know, we're not in a Speedy Gonzalez race here. She says she went and did her blood work with the Lifeline, and her total cholesterol before was at 276, and her total cholesterol now is 223. So that's a win. That's a win. And you went and had this done just as you were getting to 6 months on keto, I think, Melody, and go a little further on keto, it's going to even get better. Her triglycerides were 358 back in 2017, but now they're 191. So I'm like, that is great. That's fantastic. And her LDL is 134, which is still high, but it's better than the 146 it was before. So doing better. And she's still waiting on the ultrasounds that look for blockages and aneurysms and bone density stuff, but those take a couple of weeks, so she'll let us know. But she did ask a question. She said, all in all, she's pretty pleased so far with her results, but she's still concerned about muscle tone and mass function, muscle tone and mass. What I've heard Dr. Boz say about muscle tone and mass is that if you are changing your diet to keto and you're following keto and you're getting yourself into autophagy and losing your weight through autophagy and keto, that it actually protects your muscle mass and muscle tone. But if you're just gonna, crash diet and do the, I don't know, grapefruit diet or something, and not really going into autophagy, then you can lose a lot of muscle mass and muscle tone. That's what I remember from what Dr. Boz teaches. What do you ladies remember?
I'm not an authority, but I think as long as she exercises while, she's losing, and not, I know she's doing plant-based, so that's hard, to keep your muscles going if you're, I don't know, if you're having trouble with keeping up your fats and your protein, but
I would agree,
as long as
Patricia.
you
I think it is
exercise, I
harder.
think you keep your muscle going. Yeah.
Yeah, and she does get out to walk the dog, except for when it's blistering hot, because that's hard on her and hard on the dog. She has a large Great Dane, and
Ah.
they're very affected by the heat, because they're
Oh,
big
yeah.
bodies,
Yeah.
But what do you know, Tammy? What do you remember about muscle tone?
Not much. I know you should lift weights and eat your protein.
Yeah. Flabby triceps. Oh yeah. I got turkey wings. Yeah, I got me some turkey wings. And I've actually put in the YouTube search engine looking for exercises to work on the flabby turkey wings. And there's a bazillion of them out there. And some are good and some are not so good. And I have to be careful with a lot of them because I have fractured my shoulders in the past. And I have dislocated this shoulder just 4 years ago. And so I can't get exercises that are too intense on the shoulder. But I found exercises, and they say doing those, what are those called? The resistant exercises are actually better than just plain weight lifting. And some of those are kind of really slow. They're kind of in slow motion where you slowly move the arm or something. But
Does that include isometric maybe?
there, thank you. Couldn't think of the word.
Yeah, isometric, yeah.
Yeah, isometric and slower motion. And so for that, there's toning exercises with Qigong and with Tai Chi, where they do a lot of the isometric stuff as well. So I just look a bunch up on YouTube, Melody. If your turkey wings are bothering you, get flapping them. And find a video on there.
I will say that Dr. Boz said many times, I've heard her say it about 5 times, that her mother lost upwards of 60 pounds when she was going through her cancer, and that she had autophagy, and you can tell just by looking at the cover of Any Way You Can and looking at more recent pictures that she lost a lot of that residual skin. So it goes slowly. Dr. Boz always says it goes very slowly, and it's different for everybody. And I think it makes a difference if you're a 30-year-old or a 70-year-old.
Yeah, I think
How long
you're
it's
right.
been on your body makes a difference too.
Yeah.
So-
And how well elastic your body tissues are and
Yeah,
everything.
because the skin loses a lot of elasticity with age. So yeah,
there's one
and
woman.
it loses its ability.
There's one woman down in Texas. She's lost, I think, 225 pounds. And someone asked her recently, are you going to do the surgery to remove the extra skin? She said, no, it's a badge of honor for me. People
Is
always
that
ask.
Hilda?
Yes, Hilda,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you see Hilda's put out a book?
I bought the book, I've read it, and I've reviewed it on Amazon already.
Oh, did
But
you
my
review it on
review
Amazon?
hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah.
It's only 40 pages.
I just saw it yesterday, and I bought it as a Kindle, and I haven't read it yet. Too many other
Yeah.
things going on, but
It only
I
took
want
me
to.
about 20 minutes to read the book, so it went
Oh,
real.
okay. Okay.
There's some pictures in it, and I don't know if you've ever been in any of her
I have.
keto groups. She's very knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
She knows a lot about, because she's been with Dr. Boz for 3 years too. And
Yeah.
right now she is, I don't know if you realize, but she turned 65 and she's gotten Medicare to pay for physical training in water.
Oh.
And so she actually has to have somebody help her transfer from the wheelchair to the, the lift.
Mm-hmm.
But she loves it. She loves it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm praying that, you see, what she's saying is that her knee is stuck in like a 35-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
Even in bed,
Mm-hmm.
her knee
Mm-hmm.
is stuck at that angle.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're trying to do is to loosen it up in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't do it, then they're going to have to go in there with surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping that through the exercise, somehow or another, she'll remember where that muscle is that closes that knee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I used to work for an orthopedic surgeon. I was his office manager, and I used to do a lot of the scheduling for total knee and total hip, even total shoulders and ankle surgeries and everything. And it's amazing what they can do with surgery, but it's even more amazing if you can work it out with physical therapy and weight loss and diet and all of that. Because the surgery is tough,
It's invasive. It's invasive.
Yeah, it's very tough. Anyway, well, we have pretty much talked the hour away, and happy times. It's good to see all of you and know that you're all doing okay. And so unless somebody else has another question or wants to talk about something they read or saw this week or something.
I would like to hear a little bit, Scott, how is your class going? How far are you finished with the class you were teaching?
Yeah. This week is finals week, and so they're finishing up. And there were 6 students that started out in the class. 2 of them actually dropped. After, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, and then and since it's the summer, it's a short semester. It's only 8 weeks. And one student gradually started just not attending, and so she won't finish, I don't think. But there are 3 students that actually stuck with it, and so they did pretty well. Yeah.
And 2 of them that stuck with it are a couple, and they had a baby in the middle of the class.
Yes. Yeah. On June 25th, they had a baby.
And they still came to class, and they're going to make it.
Yep. They missed I think 2 or 3 days of class, and then they came back, and they're
What
back on
track are they on? Are they both on the track to become nurses or something?
No. Boy, I forget what their majors are.
Technicians of some kind, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not quite sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Melody just mentioned that the reason she had to buy new clothes is she's down 9 inches off her waist. Ooh, that's great. That's great. So, all right. Well, I guess we will call Keto Confab to a close tonight, and you all have a good week, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next Wednesday night. So good night, everyone. I'll stop the little recordy dude.